Now, because we've just bumped the color that the camera didn't originally supply, and we moved it all around, we need to make one last step, and that's an actual color correction. If the white balance in this camera was off, or the color that was originally captured or was skewed by for instance, if you had an automatic white balance setting, you got an awful lot of blue in this image, and your automatic white balance could have adjusted you or gone awry. So I'm going to take a look at making sure that skin tones and whites are the appropriate color. To do that, we're going to change to our vector scope. And what the vector scope shows you is the full gamut of color, a full color wheel here, and it'll show you where certain colors or how much of specific colors exist in your scene. And in this case, the center of the image is bright white. The little crosshairs in the middle is white, and any spike shows an additional or a large quantity of a specific color working its way out. In this case, we got a whole bunch of blue here. This is probably lacquer that's showing up as being a bright blue object along this wall. Also, the darker blues of the shirt as well are probably flaring out here in this clip. There's also a bright pink spike, and I would bet that's speaking to the exit sign in the background, which is blurred out, and also some orange, yellowish orange colors, probably from this background cabinet. Again, the dominant colors in the scene. So what we would like to do is to target in on just some skin tones to make sure our skin tones aren't too warm, too reddish in color, or too cool, too blue, bluish green in color, which could be contributed to the interior fluorescent lights in our hallway. But to do that, we're going to come into the effects, or select the effects tab, and come down to keying. Ooh. Never mind. In the newest version, the masks aren't falling under the keying. They have their own separate category. So we got several masks here, and I'm just going to use the shape mask. So obviously the new version has a few additional options and an extra tab that I didn't originally notice. So the masks under the effect tab, we're going to apply a shape mask to this portion of video. What we're going to do is create a very small mask. And I'm actually going to go back to my inspector window and see. There's my shape mask and my radius. And I'm going to drop this thing down so I'm looking. Come on, move for me. There we go. And I'm just going to place this on Emily's skin and drop it down so I have just skin in this clip. I'm also going to reduce the feather. If I put the feather at 0, there's no fall off, there's no feathering. So what it's doing is it's taking a sample only of that small portion of the scene. And I'll just make it a little bit larger so I get a little more color in here. And what I'll notice is that there's a tiny little spike of color that remains. All the other bright portions, colorful portions of the clip are gone. The only thing that remains is her skin tone. So we're evaluating her skin tone to ensure that it is actually skin colored. And regardless of the person's skin color, you should be very, very close to this line that is the skin tone line on the vector scope. And in this case, I can see that she falls slightly to the right and the reddish side of this line, and we can correct that by going back to the color board and adjusting slightly, because again she's very close, but just slightly adjusting the color. So one thing I can do is I can start off by just grabbing the global slider, and because this is such a small adjustment, I'm actually going to Command Z this to go back to right to the beginning. And my global's at 110 degrees and a 0% change. And if I slide this thing slightly to the right, very, very slightly, I'm saying, in this case, I'm only adding about 1%. And I might leave her slightly warmer than the line as well. But my goal is not to add a great deal of color, but instead to slide that little bit of balance of color. In this case, it's going to be slightly to the more to the green will be added. So I got a 1% increase, and I went from 110 to 105 degrees on the global slider. What I can then do is come back and just turn off the shape mask, and I can again take a look at the color of this video clip. If you want a perfectly balanced video clip, again, hopefully skin tones are on that line. And we can also check the color of her shirt. If we were to put a shape mask here, all the data should exist in the center. The white should exist right in the center of the vector scope. But again, I'm just worried about her skin tone and making sure that she looks, well, her skin looks human. So we don't have any other crazy color issues taking place. So with the shape mask off, I can see the entire clip, and I think this is a pretty good, rich looking photograph.